In front of me is what has to be one of the most overrated vehicles ever built, and it's made by Toyota. Yes, you heard me right, the Toyota 4Runner. Now this particular one is a second generation, made from 1989 to 1994. And, like every car, they have their share of problems. But is it really worth it? And that's what we're here to find out.
What the dog doing?
Now I'm going to start with the problems with the Toyota 4Runner under the hood. This particular model has the 3.0-liter 3VZE V6. This engine made a not-so-muscular 150 horsepower and 180 pound-feet of torque. Combined with the 3,000 pound weight of the truck, it's a little lacking in the performance department. It's not very fast at all. These engines also had aluminum heads, which means if you overheat it, you can kiss your engine goodbye. Something that's not exactly a problem that this engine has, but it can be a problem if you don't take care of it. These are timing belt engines, which is kind of common for Japanese cars. But if you don't change them and it snaps, then you can also kiss your engine goodbye. I don't think this is normal. Moving inside the Toyota 4Runner, it's not particularly luxurious, but that's to be expected with an SUV of this class. One of the first things you notice when you get inside this particular 4Runner, at least, it's very brown. Like, everything you can see in here, besides a select few of the bezels, is brown. Another thing you notice when you get inside of this car is the comically big parking brake that this car has. It's this giant lever that's sticking out from the dash right where your knee is going to go. Like, why, Toyota? Why? Now this particular 4Runner also is a stick shift, which combined with the V6 is actually a pretty rare combo. And it's a 4x4. So for off-roading purposes, that's kind of nice to have. I also have power windows, which is kind of nice. I'd also like to point out that these are not the seats. These are seat covers. Seats that they are covering up are actually not in too terrible shape. And the condition of the seats is actually surprising for this reason. And speaking of gauges, I actually do have a pretty widespread selection. Off to the left, I have oil pressure, coolant, and my tach. And then off to the right, I have speedometer, battery voltage, and fuel gauge. So that's pretty nice to see. I actually get a couple of nice features on this car. I have cruise control, which is actually kind of surprising. And this particular 4Runner has air conditioning, which is nice to see. I also have cup holders, but these things are actually kind of useless, because I don't even think these could hold a jack-in-the-box cup, which is kind of typical for cars of this era. Cup holders are just starting to become a thing, so I won't hold it against it. I also have a teeny center console, and what could you put in this thing? This car is missing its original stereo, but I think you could get a more upscale unit, you know, with electronic tuners and everything, and it would eliminate this little storage cubby that's underneath the radio. So this must have had the downscale radio. This particular one also has tilt wheel. Let's move on to the back seats. Alright, so I'm in the back of the Toyota 4Runner, and I've got to say, there is not much room in here. I'm kind of short, and even still, my knees are very close to touching the seat back. Other than that, nothing to write home about in here. I mean, it's okay. Now we move on to a little badge in the back that actually has a story behind it. Now this particular 4Runner is an SR5, and what that means is Sport Runabout, 5-speed. And while this 4Runner has managed to retain that character, being that it has a 5-speed manual, they still use it today, and almost no Toyota is offered with a manual transmission, but they still use the SR5 name, so the name kind of disappeared. The name's purpose kind of disappeared, so that's kind of sad. Moving to the outside of the truck, I think it looks okay. It's very boxy, which is typical of the 90s. Now, time has not been good to this particular example. The paint is very worn and it's been driven through brush or something, judging by the scratches in the paint. And speaking of the exterior, that leads us to another common problem. The frames. Now, as this is an Arizona example, the only thing you're going to see under here is surface rust. But these Tacomas, 4Runners, they had issues where in the salt, frame would just rust out. You can see them snap in half. Now, there were recalls for frame replacements for these, so it was theoretically resolved. But still, watch out for if you live in Minnesota or places like that. Be careful. These second-gen 4Runners are also known to have rear suspension issues, but there are plenty of other videos you can watch on that, so I'm not going to get into it. Now, something that's actually neat that this car has is it has a release for the fuel door. Pull that, and of course, it pops your fuel door open. And kind of flappy. Something I think that is also important to point out is this is not a stock ride height. This thing has been lifted a little. It's had some aftermarket suspension add-ons. And I mean, you know, it's four-wheel drive. Of course we're gonna do that, because something like this, I mean, this is not a nice truck. So of course we're gonna take this off-road. And these, to be fair, these trucks are actually fairly good off-roaders. I think even stock, these things could do some serious stuff. Well, I think the takeaway from this is 4Runner is by no means perfect. And it's got its reliability issues, but that's with every car. So, if you're gonna buy a 4Runner, buy a 4Runner. But beware, it does have its own personality quirks and issues that you will have to deal with. Well guys, that's it. I hope you liked the video, and if you did, hit the thumbs up button, and please subscribe and help me hit 1,000 subscribers. I'm a Laser Parker. See you soon.